What up, YouTube fam? Aaron back with the Stony Pines Homestead. What are we doing today? Well, I'm going to talk at you a little bit about what it takes to start a homestead. What's involved? How hard is it? What do you got to do? What steps do you got to take? So, stick with me. About to get after it. Alright, so thinking about starting a homestead, right? So what do you got to do? What are the steps you got to take to get there? Well, obviously you got to find some land. You got to figure out what you're going to do on that homestead. Are you going to raise chickens like I'm doing right now? You can hear them being all loud in my video. Are you going to raise goats, cows? Are you going to make butter? Are you going to heat the house with wood? What are you going to do? You got to plan this stuff all out. You got to make a list. You got to check it twice. You got to figure out, how cheap is the land? How cheap is the house? Are you going to lease the house or lease the land? Are you going to buy the house? Are you going to rent the house? All those things are kind of factored in. I'll kind of share our story and how we got started, and then hopefully that'll provide some insight for you guys. So the way we got started is for about, 2 or 3 years, I sat here and watched YouTube videos, nothing but like homesteaders and buying land and moving out of the country and moving into the country and selling your house in the city. Watch videos for like 2 or 3 years, right? So I knew that I had wanted to move out to the country and start homesteading. So after a couple years of watching videos on YouTube, I finally decided to take the leap, right? The housing market was really good. I think it was a seller's market. So what we did is we went ahead and sold our house in the city and bought the beautiful land that you see here. That is the Stony Pines Homestead. And we had quite a bit of positive equity in our house, which allowed us to move in, do a whole bunch of stuff to the house, a whole bunch of things to the yard, and buy some stuff too. So I guess number one tip would be homesteading's expensive. So my advice would be to really think about it before you buy a piece of land, buy a new house. Something like that. I would make sure you got some sort of positive equity. Currently, you don't want to end up upside down. Luckily for us, we were able to purchase a 3-bedroom, 2-bath on 5 acres for $199,000. We got a really good deal. I think it was the right time, and like I said, we had quite a bit of positive equity, so that helped a lot. Pro tip: you don't want to be upside down when if the market crashes or something like that. So what that means is you don't want to spend $250,000 on a house and land and have this money invested into it, and then everything crashes or takes a crap, or maybe the market turns around and goes upside down, and your $250,000 property and house is now worth $150,000. You got about $100,000 in negative equity. So my first pro tip, my first advice would somehow leverage positive equity. You don't want to be upside down in anything. So another thing that I would think about is, what are your plans for the homestead? Are you going to be raising chickens, cows, goats? What kind of livestock are you going to have? Are you going to have a garden? Are you going to have a well? Are you going to have city water? Things like that. I think the property is super important when it comes to homesteading. So I guess my second pro tip would be do your research and figure out how much land you might need, and figure out, do you got well water? Do you have city water? What kind of electricity do you have? And even internet, because one thing that I didn't really look into when we moved way out here in the country is things like that. So we ended up having DSL, which is great, but it's a really slow DSL. So it takes me forever to upload my YouTube videos, it takes me forever to download things, but I guess that's a trade-off of being in the country. But the land is super important, especially figuring out what it is you want to do. So do you want to have water on the property? You know what I mean? Do you want to build stuff on the property? What kind of soil does it have? You know, what kind of climate, temperature, zone, planting zone it is. All that's super important. So I think you should do a lot of research on exactly how much land you want, where you want it to be, and what you want to do with it. Because it's really going to depend on how much land you get if you want to raise chickens and horses and goats and things like that. I knew that we wanted to do chickens for sure. So, but eventually year 3, I think, I got a little plan, 1, 2, 3 year plan. I recommend that too. Set everything up, maybe yearly goals, yearly plans. So year 3, I think we're gonna get into some goats, but we got about 5 acres, a little over 5 acres here at the Stony Pines Homestead, which is plenty enough for chickens. You can see them in the back there. Plenty enough space for chickens. I want to have some goats. I want to raise show goats for 4-H kids. You know, and that comes with cheese and, you know, baby goats and stuff like that. So that's a goal of ours. And then eventually I want a dairy cow so we can sell raw milk. Then eventually maybe like a donkey to protect the goats and the cow. And then maybe a horse or 2. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, so second pro tip would be find the right piece of land for what you want to do, and then research it a bunch and make an educated decision. So the third thing that I would probably say about homesteading is that it's expensive. If you're not in a position where you have tons of positive equity and you have money saved up, you're going to want to do something like that, because inevitably there's going to be things that you need to purchase when you move into the property, things that you need to repair, things that you need to get ready for, putting in a garden, buying fencing, buying livestock, buying a wood splitter, buying a riding lawnmower for 5 acres. These are all things that we had to do when we first moved in. We had to put a new roof on our house. That was about $13,000. We had to get a new wood stove. That was about $7,000 or $8,000. We bought a riding mower. That was another $7,000. I don't think if we would have had the opportunity to have so much positive equity in our previous property and then be able to flip that into our current property, we wouldn't have a lot of the things that we have now. So pro tip would be, you know, somehow, some way, make sure you got money to move on to this property. So first step would be, you know, make sure you're not buying a house and you're maxed out, right? So you don't want to be house poor. You don't want to buy a property and a piece of house and then not be able to afford anything else, because your plans and your goals are going to take that much longer to reach. So if there's a way that you could somehow get that positive equity or save up money or some sort of side hustle to get extra money, that would be my third pro tip, is to go into the venture with as much money as you can. Obviously it's a no-brainer, but you're going to need things. There's things that they, you know, that they don't tell you on some of these YouTube channels. Is, you know, like I said, we bought a mower and it broke down. We bought a new one. It was $7,000. You know what I mean? I had to buy a wood splitter. I paid $800 cash for that, which was a good deal. I had to get a trailer. You know, that was $1,600. There's a ton of stuff that we had to do to the property, to the house. We put all new flooring in it. You know, all new flooring, and remodeled both the bathrooms. That was close to, I don't know, 15, 20 grand there, you know? So, not dropping big numbers on you guys, but I just want to put into perspective, you know, just how much money it actually takes to homestead. It's not cheap, you know, by any means, and it can get really expensive really quick. So, moral of the story, pro tip number 3, homesteading is expensive, and it can be. So my tip would be to come into it with as much positive equity or as much money, saved money, side hustle money as you can. And you know, don't stretch out, you know, your loan to where if you get approved for a $300,000 house, don't buy a $300,000 house. You're gonna be house poor. You want to have some money to where you can do stuff on the property. So that's my third tip. A couple more coming, maybe, we'll see. All right, so last tip, guys, last pro tip, bonus tip, right? We've gone through 3 of them so far. Last one would be number 4. Is homesteading is hard work. I've definitely underestimated how much hard work it is, especially working full-time and being a part-time homesteader. I have to get up in the morning and do a lot of my stuff before work, and then I have to find time, you know, after work or during work. Luckily, I work from home sometimes, and my job's super flexible. I can go out, feed the chickens, I can go out, take the dogs out, I can go weed the garden, things like that. But you know, keep in mind it's hard work. I slacked off our first year, and I didn't even get a garden in. So some homesteader I am, right? The first year on our property, and I didn't even have a garden. It was the first time in about 6 years I didn't have a garden. What happened was I tilled up this huge big area, and underestimated how much work it was, and it took me forever. And by the time I got it plowed or tilled up and got it ready, a lot of my seedlings had burned up in the greenhouse on a hot day, so that was super discouraging. So you're going to take a lot of L's, a lot of losses, but there's going to be a lot of good and a lot of positivity. I love getting our eggs every morning from our chickens. You know, I love just listening to a podcast and taking 3 hours to mow 5 acres. There's a lot of wins, but there's also a lot of losses. So one thing they don't tell you is even just being a part-time homesteader, just having 5 acres and just having chickens, it's still a lot of work. I recently hurt my back. Do a lot of physical activity, and I hurt my back pretty bad, and well, the wood still needed to get brought up from the pile to the back porch. Still had to take all the animals out, get the chickens, feed the chickens. There's still tons of stuff to do around the property, even though I was still injured, you know, so keep that in mind too. You know, it's a lot of hard work. There's a lot of things that they don't tell you when you start, you know, homesteading, or when you start moving out into the country and doing stuff, especially, you know, if you're a city slicker. I've lived in the country before. I'm not super, you know, experienced like you've seen in all my other videos. I really have no idea what I'm doing, but, you know, I have some experience in terms of, you know, being out in the wilderness and being out in the country, so it helps a little bit. But if you have no experience at all, make sure you do your research, make sure you read a lot, make sure that, you know, what's the old adage or whatever, I don't know, not good with my words, but what do they say, measure twice, cut once. You got to do a lot of research. But anyway, I'm rambling. Pro tip number 4, long story long, it's the thing I say because I ramble. It's hard work, and it's going to be hard work. So even though you have some setbacks, you might take some L's, don't get discouraged. It's all fun, it's very rewarding, and I think that's about it. That's all the tips that I got for you for starting a homestead. It's tough, it's rewarding, it's expensive, it's a lot of hard work, but a little elbow grease, you can do it. You can do it. So my advice, take the leap. I did. It'll be worth it. All right, guys, so I gave you 3 to 4 tips on starting your own homestead, what it's like, some things you got to look out for, some things that you have to keep an eye on. Hope you enjoyed the video. Real short and sweet. Hopefully it wasn't too bad, me rambling or walking around the property. I'm a talker, I can get a little bit long-winded, but like I said, hope you enjoyed the video. Hopefully this will help you decide whether or not you want to start a homestead, a little farm, move out to the country. So until next time, have a good one. Peace.